In yesterday's video, we spoke about a likely short-term pump to open up this week and then followed by a bit of a pullback. However, still the range does indeed hold. But in today's video, I want to be going over the bigger picture of things and what essentially you should expect, or what is reasonable to expect, I should say, given the statistics of it, if you are going to be bullish for the month of June and probably, I guess, for the rest of summer, or if you're not. And of course, we'll start it off here actually on the higher term time frames. But before that, I want to give you a quick update because the price action pivots indicator has just pushed an update. It is V1.55. It's a new update. You'll notice that there's going to be a purple icon next to your price action pivots indicator over here on your trading view, and all you need to do is just hit that. It'll update it, and you'll get all of the new features, which we're very, very excited about. Other than that, if you want to check out the price action pivots, you can still do it for free for 7 days. Just follow the link in the description below for Teachable. No code is needed, no nothing. All right, cool. Now that we've gotten through that, yes, short term, bit of a pump. We said, hey, that's fine, but probably not going to be a breakout. Of course, Bitcoin did not break out as we saw yesterday, and Bitcoin more or less operating within the same range. And I do expect this to continue on probably throughout most of this week. Don't think that we're going to see anything like super, super interesting. But here's one thing that I wanted to come back to. So for the month of June, going back to these stats here, we know that for positive closing Junes, the low of June in terms of the date of June that we expect the low on has been on average around day number 7. And in fact, the highest date, the furthest away date, the latest date, my brain's like barely working. I must be recovering from caffeine addiction and probably a slight painkiller addiction at this point as well. Last week was a fucking doozy, man. Anyways, yeah, my point is that the latest lows that we've seen on June have been they've been literally on the 14th date of June. This happened in 2017 and 2023. And just as an aside, in 2014, it did come rather late within the month of June, despite closing positively, but again on the 13th. So now that we are living on day number 17 of June, I would go as far to say that, hey, if Bitcoin comes anywhere back down below this month's low, this is going to be a negative closing month, and you're very likely to see, lower. And where was June's low thus far? I believe it was literally on the 7th, it's on the 5th. It's on the 5th right here. And then, of course, on the 13th, just last week, we did see Bitcoin come down. It did not make a new low, obviously. So that is effectively our low for the month as of right now. 100,430. So obviously, you see Bitcoin come back down below there. Problems, indicating that this thing's going to open up probably into a corrective July, maybe even spill into August as well. And I think that you could honestly even front run a signal like this with Bitcoin coming back down below last Friday's low, which is 102,750, meaning that if Bitcoin even just trades below that low, it's no longer a range play. We should probably be getting prepared for a negative closing June. And to be fair, negative closing Junes have had, pretty not like super, super bad results, but they have been somewhat bad. The average loss in June for negative closing Junes has been about 15.5%. The median loss has been just under 11%. So if we play around with the numbers right here, what would that effectively look like? 15% puts you down to $90,000, so that would be pretty nasty. And of course, 10% puts you, or 11% puts you, very low, or not low, middle of the 90s, around 93, 94, 95,000 bucks. So that's kind of what's at stake right here. But of course, as long as Bitcoin is above, especially even last Friday's low, I still think that this is more or less setting up for likely a bullish resolution. Despite a correction, perhaps going on for a little bit longer. So now let's go over the condition on the daily here that would prove that wrong and suggest that Bitcoin's ready to, just make new all-time highs, probably put on a nice move towards 120, 130-ish region. And that would effectively be in closing above not last Monday, but 2 Mondays ago's high. That was 110,617. And I even think at this point, you could probably use yesterday's high. Yesterday's high is almost 109,000 US dollars. So if you see Bitcoin close the daily dodo above there, then very likely getting ready for a big move into the deep teens, probably 120, probably 125, with stops along the way. Anyways, here's also the things on the higher term timeframes that I'm really paying attention to as of right now, because, well, I think it'll be obvious once we go through it. Hey, that code's no longer available. No more sales. There'll be full price for forever and always. I know, kidding, of course. But monthly time frame for stochastic momentum is actually gonna have a chance to cross back onto the upside here, or at the end of this month, and we we are less than 2 weeks away from the end of this month now, and that will effectively happen if Bitcoin does close or finish the month above 103,750. So that is again coming in very, very close to even the bottom end of the daily range that we just went over. Of course, it's a little bit higher than even last Friday's low, but still, these numbers are coming in around the same regions. On top of that, I do want to acknowledge that the monthly time frame is seeing volatility represented by the BBWP indicator right here come off of some of the lowest levels we've seen ever. In fact, the only time that it's really been lower was in the preparing for the the summer breakout of 2020. If you remember DeFi summer. But other than that, this does have a potential to really propel Bitcoin much further up if we see volatility expansion from a low level like this, plus momentum once again cross the upside. But again, that number must be met by the end of the month. Otherwise, the other side becomes significantly more probabilistic in terms of likelihood. So we got plenty more events to go. But here's the thing: when I go over to this chart, the quarterly time frame for Bitcoin, this, funnily enough, or maybe not funnily enough, matches up almost exactly with that last number for daily momentum, where the median sits as of right now on the quarter. The median is actually at 103,371, meaning that if Bitcoin closes this month above the median, which would effectively close the quarterly as well, because they're going to close at the same time, then that really opens up the door for, a really impressive summer rally. Maybe even goes into Q4 of this year as well. I don't know if it's going to get all the way to the top side of the 38.2 level here, but that is actually what has happened in the past when it has reclaimed the median after being away from it for a long time. So yeah, if you see this example right here, it did test it. I mean, that was the high, to be fair, but yeah, it did happen. Same thing over here, although probably way too early to really get good reads on an indicator like this. Anyways, the median, like I said, is coming in at 103,370. We've seen many numbers around this region come in now. Let's just call it 103. Bitcoin hopefully finishes the month above there. Otherwise, it does start to look, a little bit less appealing, I suppose, for the rest of summer. If Bitcoin rejects from this again, then kind of have to be thinking downside, or at least a try to the downside if that were to happen. But yeah. Anyways, okay. Now let's go to the lower term timeframes here. Let's go to a 4-hour time frame. Have a little bit of fun with this. We haven't really looked at this too often. Actually, before we do that, let's go to the semi-medium higher term timeframes. 3-day time frame, again, still working on this rising channel here, which does have a higher probability to break out to the downside than the upside, but it's not a certainty, of course, and it's not unheard of for them to break out to the upside. But this one is going to be closing tonight, and if you do see Bitcoin close below the open of the last 3-day dildo, which is, let's just call it like 105.5, I would look at that as broken, and Bitcoin very likely getting ready for a move back down to very low 100s. I would assume somewhere around 101, 102 region, if that were to happen. Again, not all in the same dildo, but over the course of the next few closures, yeah, I would be expecting a move like that to happen. There is, of course, an implied move to be made if this does work out as a pattern, and that would be, again, I'm assuming that actually breaks here. We do not have confirmation that is broken just yet, but yeah, that would be pointed down towards $94,000, which was another sort of potential bearish target that popped up later if Bitcoin does break this holding pattern here to the downside. So I just would be aware of that is a possibility, although again, still, further away. And as of right now, the ball is still in the Bull's court, despite, even despite yesterday night's sell-off. Bitcoin's even still above all major moving averages on the daily time frame. So it's not like super, super concerning here just yet, at least. Anyways, on top of that, 3-day momentum, let's see what 3-day momentum is going to do. Yeah, 3-day momentum will actually continue to the downside if Bitcoin finishes today below 108,700. So, I don't like that all these things are kind of turning against Bitcoin here, to be honest with you. Daily time frame is going to be headed down. The 2-day time frame is the only one that's up. That's the odd man out. The 3-day time frame is down. The 5-day time frame is down. The weekly time frame is hinting down. The 10-day time frame is probably still up, but getting into some pretty crazy territories which have marked off tops recently. So I just would be aware of that, and of course the monthly, not relevant right now, but if Bitcoin's below like 103 by end of month, that starts to look kind of ugly, man. Kind of ugly. Anyways, yes. So now that we've gone through that, let's go to the very, very low term timeframes here. Let's go to a 4-hour time frame. We even have a bit of a rising, what do you want to call this? So it's actually, is this a rising wedge? Actually, technically it's not. It's a rising broadening wedge, if you want to be super exact. I'm getting into my full-on pattern bro swing here. The price action pivots have broadened it out of me. I actually don't know if this one's going to work out that well. It kind of looks a little bit wonky to me, to be honest. But if Bitcoin does close below the last 4 4-hour open at 106,800. You could probably mark this one off as resolved, and let's see what an implied target would be from this. Something like such. If that were to happen, that'd be pointed down towards 105,600-ish region. It's not like devastating if that were to happen. Again, doesn't violate our major numbers here, but this on the daily, if things end right here, what do you have in terms of trend? You have high, low, lower high, lower low, lower high, lower low, higher high, same low, or not really even a low. We don't really know what the fuck's going on over here, to be honest, just yet. I guess this one obviously would be a low as of right now, but is going to put in a lower high, somewhere below about 110, 111-ish region. Obviously, if that were to happen, that would also be, somewhat problematic. So, just be aware of these things. Like I said, they're not actionable just yet, but they are, very, 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 very close in terms of confirmation. But still, those numbers must absolutely be met in order to initiate actual bearish targets. And it's not even really bearish targets. I still think that it'd generally be an opportunity. I still think that this market probably tries higher later on, but yeah, that is in there. So do be aware of that, I suppose. Anyways, did we even go over monthly momentum? Yeah, we did. Okay, we did do that. So I think we got everything here, actually. Yeah, maybe we could come up with the breakout condition on the lower term timeframes as well. No, I don't think it's going to be that helpful, because it's the same thing as the daily. It's yesterday's high. Minimum, maybe the 12 hours got some for us. Still no. Yeah, fair enough. I think we'll end things on that note. I'm preparing myself for the return to live streams, but I think it's going to happen on Thursday. The reason being because my doctor, the surgeon, said you shouldn't raise your blood pressure in the first couple weeks, or at least the first 10 days after getting your surgery. Otherwise, your hair is probably going to fall out. So these damn shit coins piss me off as usual, making my blood pressure rise, giving me all sorts of health issues. So with that said, I'm going to be signing off on that note. As always, take care, much love, and see you hopefully Wednesday.